Oh boy, I see. I'm trying to go through downtown. It looks like downtown will not be accessible because of the protest situation. And that makes sense. Hello everybody. So I want to have a conversation about the difference between what is called black on black crime and what is being called, well, let's make it stronger, let's say black on black violence, and what has been called blue on black violence. And by blue on black, because there aren't blue people that we're thinking about police officers, because some police officers are what you would call black. So, all right, so I want to talk about an experiential difference from my own perspective, my own experience, between those things: black on black crime, black on black violence, and blue on black violence. All right, now what I'm going to ultimately say about black on black versus blue on black is that one of those, as a black male myself, I can avoid. By and large, for a great deal, I can avoid one of those. And one of those I cannot avoid. And this is a significant difference. All right, so why bring up the issue? It's because a good friend of mine, who's a police officer, also classified as a black male, he talked about how his fellow officers who are white often say, if black people are killing each other and at a high rate, black on black violence or what have you, then why do they get so upset and march and whatnot when one of the police kills them? And so it bears repeating. Let's just figure this out flatly. So the idea is, if it's such a prevalent theme that there's black on black violence and black on black crime, why are there marches and people getting upset and looting and so forth whenever there's police or blue on black violence? And so, and the thing about it is, my friend, who's a black male police officer, you know, he gets hit with this a lot. People, you know, say it to him. Evidently, it's his folk. Shout out to Ark Dog. All right, so let's go ahead and tackle it then. So let's begin with the idea of what's happening with black on black from my perspective. So what I'm going to say is that what's often called black on black crime is really poor on poor crime. It happens to be that they're in a poor neighborhood with disadvantaged, lack of resources, and we know that worldwide, all people in all times, when you have that situation and circumstance, it produces violence. Whenever you have poverty, limited access to resources, but in the midst of a society that has affluence and multiple access to resources, you're going to have violence and crime. That's like a sociological thing that goes past race. And so really what's happening in a lot of this black on black, it's really poor on poor. And we're really talking about I hate to use the term ghetto, but the term for socially disadvantaged, economically deprived, not seeing very much resource from the city or state or what have you. So this area is what I'm talking about, and these are the areas where you're going to have the violence. It just so happens, because of the systemic racism that, you know, underlies this deal we're talking about, that there is a correlation quite often between a black neighborhood and a poor neighborhood, because of the historical systemic racism that, again, takes a much longer time to discuss, but that is at issue here. Okay, so what that means is that it's really not my blackness that gets me in trouble in those situations. It would be the people's poorness which gets me into trouble in those situations. And so what that means is I can avoid it, because I am blessed to be in a situation where my education level and my social economic level makes it where if I choose, I can avoid going around or even being around those significantly disadvantaged populations, unless it's a mistake or an accident. So let me repeat that then. So as a black male, if I want to avoid what would just seem like black on black violence, a great deal of that is just not avoiding black people, but avoiding neighborhoods that have been poverty stricken, and as a result end up being stricken with crime. Okay, now what we're calling blue on black, or the police on black, I cannot avoid. Why? Because it's not an economic issue in this case. It very much is a racial issue, meaning because I am categorized as black male, it is for that reason that the violence, I end up potentially being a victim of it. Or, you know, and I cannot avoid it because it doesn't matter my education, it doesn't matter my money, it doesn't matter where I drive, what time I'm there. None of those things matter if the officer in question has a certain idea about what my appearance means or what my body means. And so I can't avoid it. I could be driving in a good neighborhood, I could be driving in a bad neighborhood, I could be on the street, I could be walking, I could be riding, I could be doing anything. And if, you know, a person in blue deems that I'm suspicious in some way because of my brownness, then I cannot avoid potentially being the victim of violence. And so that is a significant difference. That is a significant difference in my life. Even if we're not talking about big generalizations for everybody, in my life that's a significant difference, because I can avoid going to places where I'm going to be you know, subject to poverty violence, and I can avoid those times. I cannot in America avoid the gaze of the police officer who's going to potentially see me in a certain way. So that's why there's a big protest. That's why there's a big situation. Now granted, both situations could have at their heart the, you know, generations of demonizing of black males, black people in general, but the criminalizing and demonizing of black males in general, such that when anybody, even a black male, sees a black male, they start getting worried. So it very well could be that in black on black crimes there is an element of racism. So I'm not going to deny that. But what I want to say is that the primary issue in that is going to be economic. And then when it comes down to the blue on black, it's not economic, it just is racist. And so that ends up being a significant difference.